Hello again and good evening all of you. Sambhasha Foundation would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone gathered here for Professor M.A. Dhaky Annual Memorial Lecture. We are extremely honored to inform you that this is our fourth consecutive year celebrating Professor Dhaky's legacy through this annual memorial lecture. Before we go ahead, let me quickly introduce all of you to Sambhasha. Sambhasha in Sanskrit means dialogue or debate, and we aspire to represent the same. A healthy dialogue and conversation on cultural diversities and similarities. Sambhasha Foundation is an initiative for cultural and language studies through a non biased and scientific perspective. Now, who was Professor Dhaky and how did he change our perspective to look at aesthetic world of art and architecture existing around us for centuries? 31st July marks the birth of this eminent scholar who changed the course of ancient architectural studies through his extensive contribution to the field. Born in Gujarat, Porbandar, Dhaky finished his primary education in his hometown and later moved to Pune's Ferguson College for undergraduate studies. His intriguing interest in ancient temple architecture paved the way for the establishment of Archaeology Research Group in Porbandar in 1951. Dhaky's comprehensive writing through various mediums like books, articles, and research papers on temple architecture and Jain literature inspired many scholars to explore the regional nuances of ancient Indian architecture. This memorial lecture is our small attempt to pay homage to Professor Dhaky's unmatched contribution to the field. Now, I would like to hand over the stage to Chetana and introduce us to our today's speaker, Professor Kannal.
Thank you so much, Shantini. It's indeed our pleasure and honor at Sambhasha to have Professor Deepak Kannal as the speaker for the fourth Professor M.A. Dhaky Annual Memorial Lecture. Many of you really don't need his introduction, but as a protocol and as a respect to Professor Kannal, we need to introduce him formally. So Professor Deepak Kannal is an eminent sculptor and an art historian. He worked as the Dean of the Faculty of Fine Arts and Head of the Department of Art History and Aesthetics at Maharaja Sayajirao University of Vadodara. Professor Kannal conducted his postdoctoral research at Charles Wallace Fellow at Cambridge, United Kingdom. His notable works include the books Ellora, An Enigma in Sculptural Styles, and Drigambharini, The Syntax and Semiotics of Sculpture and Indian Linguistic Theories. He has received numerous awards, which include the Gujarat State Lalit Kala Award, the National Lalit Kala Academy Honorable Mention, and the Tagore National Fellowship. Professor Kannal has adorned several prestigious chairs, such as Aryamurti Chair, Karnataka Chitrakala Parishad in Bangalore, where he presented the paper entitled Ellora and the Karnataka Connection. Madanlal Nagar Chair, UP Lalit Kala Academy, Lucknow, and where he shared his insights on the state of art education in India. Additionally, Professor Kannal has given the K.K. Hebbar Chair Lecture at JJ School of Art, felicitated by the Lalit Kala Regional Center. His contributions include numerous lectures on various intriguing topics in Indian art history. Professor Kannal has contributed over 75 research papers and articles, organized major exhibitions, and participated in national and international seminars. His expertise has been recognized through various prestigious lectures and positions on academic and advisory committees, and evidently, he is a scholar par excellence. But above all, he is a very respected and popular teacher, simple and down-to-earth human being. We are extremely honored to have you here, sir, and a very warm welcome once again from Sambhasha. I now request you to give your speech on this auspicious occasion of Professor M.A. Dhaky Annual Memorial Lecture. Over to you, sir.
I'm so sorry for interrupting, Kannal sir. Before we go ahead, I would like to tell everybody that if you can switch on your cameras, that would be really nice, because Professor Kannal will be interacting with all of you through his camera. So please switch on your cameras when you are attending the lecture. And of course, the basic protocol, please switch off your audios so that we won't be interrupted by any noises that are in your background. Extremely sorry, and please go ahead, sir.
Uh, Thank you so much, Chetanaji and Dehangal, for your kind and very long introduction. Uh, I personally feel extremely honored to be uh, to be invited on this chair to commemorate Dhaki Sahib. Meeting Dhaki Sahib used to be a very pleasant experience. We could meet him at Banaras in Ramnagar, having the morning tea with him in the early morning on the steps of Indian Institute of American Studies, and meeting him in Ahmedabad, meeting in Baroda. Every time it used to be a great pleasure because he was not one of the most knowledgeable scholars in Indian architecture, but he was a very versatile person. So he always used to talk about music, he used to talk about literature. It was uh, an amazing experience to be with Dhaki Sahib. So when I was invited to speak in the series to commemorate Dhaki Sahib, I was more than happy. Thank you very much, Sambhasha, for inviting me on this chair. I think without wasting further time, we can switch over to my presentation. Uh,
I will present your presentation, sir.
so I think we can share it.
Yes. Just give me a minute.
Really, a lot has been written about Rani Ki Vav. We know that Dr. Kirit Mankodi has written extensively on Rani Ki Vav. There are some other scholars from Gujarat who has written about Rani Ki Vav. I myself have spoken on this topic earlier to the Mythic Society. But when I had a discussion with Dr. Shrikant Ganvir, he was also of the opinion that we should choose a subject which is dear to Dhaki Saab's heart. And since Dhaki Saab was working in Gujarat architecture, particularly of this Maru Gurjar period, we finally decided to go ahead with this topic, Rani Ki Vav. Next, please. So, please go ahead. So, since so much has been written about this vow, I didn't have any new research to present. I'm not going to provide a fresh information on Rani Ki Vav. Of course, some information will have to be furnished to reach out to the people who have not seen Rani Ki Vav or who do not know about Rani Ki Vav. So some information will be there, but I will be mainly focusing on the aesthetic aspect of it, and particularly the cerebralism in the aesthetic aspect. Why cerebralism? Because uh, it is very obviously, very conspicuously reflected from the sculpture and architecture of Solanki period monuments. As it is, 11th century in India is the age of codification. We know that though the Shastra Granthas, the Indian tradition started compiling the Shastra Granthas sometime during the Gupta period. We do know a couple of, like we know Brihad Samhita, where the attempts towards codification can be seen. But the codification gets complete in 10th, 11th century. All the Shastra Granthas, all the prescriptions are composed in this particular period, and not only the prescriptions, but the sculptural tradition started following those prescriptions. That is most important. Uh, so earlier also the prescriptions were there, but the sculptors were not really quite eager to follow those prescriptions. After 10th, 11th century, the sculptors and the architects, they start following these prescriptions very obediently. And that is why I call it a period of codification, a period of cerebralism, because the cerebral tradition has taken over the creative pursuit. The cerebral tradition has started ruling the creative pursuit. Now, not much freedom is left to the sculptors and the architects. The text dictate almost everything. Anyway, what I was trying to say that the experimentation is over. Now the sculptors are not trying to do something which is not prescribed by the text. The Silpa text, which are very, very cerebral in nature, and there is an extremely calculated sense of aesthetics. This is the age of Alankaras. This is very interesting. If you see the aesthetic tradition of India, the earliest aesthetic theories that we come to know is the theory of rasa, which is mainly based on the expression of sentiments. The sentiments are central to rasa theory. Then gradually we are introduced to theory of rasa, where the style comes in, where the manner of expression comes in, where the formal experimentation comes in. So there also you can see the artist intuition is at work. Then comes Dhwani. Dhwani is intellectual, but Dhwani also has the aspect of rasa Dhwani, where the emotional aspect, the emotive aspect, the intuitive aspect is blended with the cerebral aspect, and a real incandescent expression can be seen in that particular period. So all these theories try to express the human emotions, try to give shape to human emotions. But then a period comes, though the theory of Alankara goes back to Bharata's times. After 9th-10th century, after the decline of Dhwani, you can see that the aesthetic world is taken over by the Alankaras. And the Alankaras are more conventional in nature. They give more importance to embellishment than emotions, than intuition. And that is why I call it cerebralism. This is the age of Alankaras, and you can see the predominance of celebration, embellishment in the sculpture and architecture of this period. So we'll have a very brief introduction to the Vav architecture, Rani Ki Vav in particular, and then we will go back to our argument. Next, please. Stepwell is not a new concept. We know that, of course, considering the crowd, quite a few people must be conversant with these facts, but I'm repeating some of them for those who are not. So the notion of stepwell is not a new thing in Gujarat. You find a stepwell at Dholavira, which means that even in the Harappan period, these wells with steps were in practice. Recently, of course, when I say recently, it means a decade back, a stepwell has been discovered in Dholavira, which goes back to 2nd millennium BC. And not only that, this tradition of stepwells continues in Kutch region. There are hundreds and hundreds of stepwells in Kutch region. And recently, a book, they are called Selor or Chelor in Kutch area. Selor vows or Chelor vows. Sanjay Thakkar, a young scholar, has documented most of these stepwells and published a compilation of Selor vows in Kutch region. It's a very, very good collection. So, though there are stepwells in other parts of the country, but as Sir John Marshall believed that the Gujarat stepwells are the most beautiful, and I'm sure even my audience in Maharashtra would agree with me, because we know that the stepwells in Ahmedabad, the stepwells in Gujarat region, North Gujarat region, are extremely beautiful. There are many in Gujarat. Adalaj is one of the best, which is very close to Ahmedabad. Next, please. There are some very large stepwells. They give a very different experience, and they project the ambition of the people who carved them. This is known as Adikhadi Vav on the left, which is hundreds of meters deep, which is in Uparkot near Junagadh. And the other is also on the same fort called Navgan Kuo. So one is Kuo, the other is well. So what exactly is the difference between a Kuo and a well and a Kunda? Some of you know it. Kupa is the Kua, which has a central shaft. Kunda has access from all the four sides. Tadaga is a lake. And what we are discussing today is the Vapi. Wow. Next, please. There are some vows in Maharashtra also. The Bara Motanchi Veer, which is one of the most celebrated stepwell in Maharashtra. Whenever we talk about stepwells, the people in Pune always refer to this Baramotanchi Veer, which is near Satara, which is fairly a large wow. But the other wow, or the Barav, which is in Parbhani district, is far more exciting than this Baramotanchi wow. That is at a place called Valur, which is in Parbhani district. I will show you the photographs also. Then there is Chand Baudi, which is more like a kund, which is in Bijapur. And one of the most spectacular vows, which is outside Gujarat, is the Abaneri vow from Rajasthan, which is near the town of Abaneri. We'll see the photographs. Next, please. The one on the left is the Valur vow. Very ambitious, very complex, which has 8 accesses. And now the people from this village have started restoring this vow, which was in a very bad state. But they are cleaning and restoring it. There's one more from Maharashtra, which is this helical vow. Next, please. This is Chand Baudi. Baudi, the word also comes from vow, which is a step well. This is from Vijapur, a very large vow, but it looks more like a kund than a vow. Next, please. This perhaps is the most ambitious vow I have ever seen. Now, is it really a vow, or it is just a luxury abode? Because the amount of water that is there in this vow is so little, and the access to the water is so difficult, is so complex, that I wonder whether people could collect water from this resource. I think here the water reservoir is only used as the cooling agent for this luxury resort. If we see other views of this vow, you can see that a huge palace is inserted into this vow, and this vow only acts like a beautiful scenario and a cooling atmosphere. Next, please. Here. I wonder whether anybody would go down all the way just to fetch water, because it's very risky, very difficult, very ambitious. Next, please. Let's go. Well, let's not have a very long discussion on these things. What I was trying to establish over here is when a vast area is utilized to reach a very small amount of water, which is very difficult to procure. Under such circumstances, the kund is a better solution. A kund has a different angle of access, so it is structurally simple because the angles are very moderate angles. There are no structural challenges. There are better for the places where the water level is not very deep. Actually, kundas are normally dug in those areas where the water level is not very deep. Wow! Normally is seen in those places where the water level is very deep, where the table level is very deep. Next, please. Here, a kund from Modera, which has access from all the 4 sides, very easily accessible. I'm sure this must be a very convenient resource of water for the people of this village. Next, please. Now we start with our own. This is a top view of Rani Ki Vav. Why Vapi or Vav, Baudi, Bauli, Barav in Maru Gurjar region? Most of these Vavs are found in Maru Gurjar region, either in Rajasthan, southern Rajasthan, or northern Gujarat. Obviously, because the water table in Gujarat and Rajasthan is very deep. So, as we saw that there are Vavs in other areas also, but they cannot rival these Vavs, which are very deep. I think that wherever there were kupas or the kuas, they're personal. People used to have their own kua or their own coop in their own premises. Wow is a public place. vow was dug out for by the authorities for the common public. And very interestingly, all the vows of Gujarat are the spaces for casual congregations. Well, we know that even in folk stories, we can see that most of the women, they used to meet each other and interact with each other whenever they went to fetch water. Here, the spaces for this kind of casual congregation, this kind of casual meeting have been very wisely, very very intelligently created. So all these vows has very large spaces where you can have uh, casual casual informal meetings. Next, please. Many people have worked on the step wells, and one of the scholars who has used the term inverted temple for the Rani Ki Vav. It's a pleasant poetic simile. Whenever people say that it is an there are people hear this simile, they find it very very interesting, and it's a very popular simile. Many people say that a vow is an inverted temple, but it certainly is not a reality. Now, if we go by the uh, architectural design, the architectural calculations, the cerebral approach to architecture, you will immediately understand that the vertical structure, when you try to build a temple, a vertical structure, the the challenges are mainly of the load bearing. You have to build stones over stones, you have to pile up stones over stones. So it is the challenge is of load bearing. All these loads, the load of of these stones have to be borne by the lower registers. So it is a challenge of gravity. And finally, the ultimate challenge in temple building or any construction is enclosing spaces. By building things around the spaces, you enclose the spaces. So it is an attempt towards enclosing the spaces. In a well, the challenges are different because here you are making spaces and making spaces facing the thrust of the soil, which is trying to fill up the spaces. When you make space in the ground, the soil on the laterals on all the sides, it will try to uh, try to uh, uh, collapse inside and close the spaces. The thrust of this soil, well, you will have, the challenge is to keep that soil in its place. So the thrust of that soil, which is trying to fill up the spaces, is the biggest challenge. So you will have to create the devices to resist this collapse. And in valves, you will find that there are several members which try to hold these walls away from each other. Next, please. Almost all these vows, barring a couple of them, we saw the Avaneri vow, which is like a kunda. There is a very interesting vow in Baroda also, which is in L shape. But otherwise, most of these vows in Gujarat and Rajasthan are in the ground plan is a keyhole ground plan. The shaft of the wall on one side and the steps reaching out to the central shaft. The Rani Ki Vav is also following the same ground plan. This is a standard ground plan which is followed, and I think this is the most convenient ground plan because this is the simplest possible access to the water in the main shaft. Uh, Rani Ki Vav sometimes is also called Ranki Vav, and some people try to attribute it to Ranak Devi. Actually, Ranak Devi is one of the most celebrated heroines of Gujarat folk literature. She is considered to be the queen of King Khengar. He was a Chudasama king who fought against Jaisimha. And I'm sure people must have heard about this story, which was woven into early Hindi films also. So this Ranak Devi, uh, the story goes like this, that Jaisima also loved Ranak Devi, and then it's a tragic story, and people try to relate this vow to Ranak Devi, but there is no historical evidence, not for the connection between Ranak Devi and this well, but there is no historical evidence of Ranak Devi herself. And that is why it may not be really correct to attribute this vow to Ranak Devi. It is Rani ki vow, that is Queen's well, and it is dug out by Queen Udaymati. We have enough reason, enough evidence to believe this. Next, please. This is a sculpture, a loose sculpture found in the premises of this vow, and there is an inscription. If you see carefully, you will be able to see that inscription at the base of this sculpture. It reads as Maharajni Shri Udaymati, in the sculpture which is found in the premises. In Prabandha Chintamani, which has been compiled by Muni Merutunga in 1304, not much distant from the rule of the Solanki kings, it is mentioned that Udaymati built a vow that surpassed the beauty of Sahasralinga Talav in Anhil Patan. There is a beautiful Talav, which is not in a very good shape now, but it is believed to be one of the most beautiful sources of water. But Muni Merutunga says that this vow, Rani ki vow, it surpasses the beauty of Sahasralinga Talav, obviously, because this vow is far more embellished than Sahasralinga Talav, which is in Anil Patan, very close from this place. So, which seems that King Bhimdev, Maharajni Udaymati's husband, he died in 1064. And obviously, if this vow was built in the memory of Bhimdev, it must have been built towards the end of 11th century. So I think even stylistically, this vow can be very comfortably placed in late 11th century. And there are other evidences also to support this conjecture. So we can safely place it in late 11th century and attribute it to Queen Udaymati. So it is Rani ki vow, certainly not Ran ki vow. Next, please. I have chosen two general views, one from the shaft and the other from the other end. You can see the grandeur of it, perhaps one of the grandest underground structure in India. The dimensions of this vow almost rival the dimensions of Kailashnath of Ellora. Barring the width, the other two dimensions are almost the same dimension, almost the same to the Kailashnath of Ellora. I have one more view from the other side. You can see some human figures in this picture that will give you some idea about the grandeur of it. Can we see it from the other side? Here. So you can see that the shaft is on the other side. You gradually go down. And I was talking about those connections between the two walls. Now, if those structures in the center wouldn't have been there, the walls would have collapsed, because the depth of the vow is about 90 feet. Now, 90 feet vertical wall cannot stand on its own. It has to have buttresses. So these beautiful structures in between, which are covered with beautiful decorative carving, are the buttresses. They are the structural requirement of the. When I say cerebralism in architecture, this is cerebralism in architecture. Now you can see some remains. I wonder whether you can see it, because my screen is not seeing. If you see at the lowermost rim of this slide, you can see the remains of a huge pillar. That must be the base of a toran. Can we see the next slide? Here, Gujarat is known for its torans. Vadnagar has a toran. Prabhas Patan has a toran. So this vow also must be having three beautiful toranas on the entrance, and people must be entering into the premises of the vow through these toranas. Next, please. This is the ground plan. You can see that it is 213 feet long which is almost the dimension of Kailasanath. The width cannot be compared with Kailash because Kailash is almost 150 feet wide. Here it is only 66 feet wide. And the depth is 90 feet. So they are the dimensions of inverted Kailasha. And then you can see that there are several planes and there are steps. So there is one level, then the steps lead to another level. Again, there are steps leading to the third level. Then there is a huge kunda. And then from that kunda, you can actually enter into the shaft of the ground. So from here to here, you walk almost 200 feet and it covers 11 acres, more than 11 acres. Next, please. Here, these are the buttresses which I was talking about. These are the structures which support both the walls and prevent them from collapsing. It is a simple structural requirement of this vow, but they are so beautifully designed and beautifully decorated that my students know that I always talk about the fourth condition of Immanuel Kant's notion of beauty. Immanuel Kant says that beauty is purposiveness without purpose. Everything in this universe has a purpose. There is nothing that doesn't have a purpose. But where the purpose is seen, the purpose is understood, the purpose is deciphered, then the thing loses the beauty because the purpose takes the front seat. You look at the purpose. But if the purpose gets totally merged into the object or into the structure or into the object of beauty, then it is purposiveness without purpose, or it is the representation of finality. It is a finality without the representation of an end. Like he gives an example of a flower, that a flower has a purpose, but you do not appreciate the flower understanding its purpose. Even if you know the purpose of the flower, you enjoy the flower, you appreciate the flower without referring to the purpose. This beauty, I think for Indian architecture, the same notion can be extended to Indian architecture. That all these things have a purpose, but when you look at them, you cannot notice the purpose. The purpose doesn't overpower the beauty of the structures. It gets totally merged with the object. Next, please. Here. Now, every member of this architecture has a purpose, but it is so beautifully placed that you forget that this is a structural requirement. It becomes an object of beauty. There is a sense of finality. There is a sense of completeness, and without the representation of an end. Next, please. The shaft is the most important part of the well, and you can notice that compared to the rest of the structure, this shaft is very small. Obviously, because the water reservoir is quite limited and deep. But I wanted to point out one very interesting thing which was noticed by Professor Parimu in his Sheshashahi book, that most of the water reservoirs in India are embellished or accompanied by a Sheshashahi image. We know that one of the epithets of Vishnu is Narayana, Nara, the one whose ayana is Nara, the one whose abode is water. So the water reservoirs always have images of Sheshashahi Vishnu. You'll find a Sheshashahi Vishnu just next to the waterfall near the cave number 29 of Ellora. There's a Sheshashahi over there. You'll find Sheshashahi Vishnus near the Abshars in Kashmir region. You'll find Sheshashahi image in the water reservoir of Buddha Narayan, Chengu Narayan. So it is very common that Sheshashahi images are carved near the water reservoirs. Here in this well, there are more than one Sheshashahi images because the water keeps rising or receding. during the monsoons and the summers. So at every stage, at every layer, there is a Sheshashahi image. Next, please. Here, very beautiful Sheshashahi images. You can see when I was saying the cerebralism. Now the artist is very observant. More than the emotions, he is interested in showing his understanding of the subject matter. Vishnu is sleeping on the coach, and can you see that the coach is bent because of his weight? Now here the artist is showing all realities. His This is what I was trying to say, that the artist is very observant. He tries to show every detail. Next, please. This is the shaft. And you can see these members jutting out, sticking out from all different sides. They're obviously for pulling out the water on pulleys. Every layer, every ring of this shaft is so beautifully decorated. Next, please. The system which has been introduced and prescribed by the text, that there are key checkers on the brackets. All those prescriptions are very faithfully followed. Next, please. Now the sculpture. Fortunately or unfortunately, though the buttresses were there and the sculptures were totally clad, the walls were totally clad with these sculptures, because of the soft soil. You know that Gujarat doesn't have much of a rock in the soil. Because of the soft soils, the soil, they left these sculptures, and the wow was it was in a collapsed state when they discovered it. Fortunate for the reason that because of that soft soil, all these sculptures were preserved. You can see that the state of sculpture is excellent. Most of the sculptures are in intact state. So they were preserved by the mud, by the soil, but at the same time, the position of the sculpture was mingled. When these sculptures were placed again, when the wall was reconstructed, you will discover that some of these sculptures have been placed at a wrong position. The sequence of the sculptures sometimes is wrong, not always, but some of the sculptures are wrongly placed. Now here you can see there is Indra with Shachi, Ganesha with his consort, and Vishnu in the center. Beautiful carving, which you see in this period, particularly in Gujarat and Rajasthan, in Maru Gurjar architecture. Amazing carving skills. But now the sculpture has taken a backseat. This is the period when the large sculptural panels disappear from sculpture, from architecture. If you try to recollect temples like Devgarh has four very large sculptural panels three very large sculptural panels on all the three sides. The same is true about Badami. The same is true about Ellora. The large size sculptural panels, which show the emotive development of that story, emotive development of that myth, are not seen in this period. Instead, the sculpture is reduced in size and sometimes is almost reduced to a decorative pattern. It is reduced to a decorative pattern. It loses its predominance. Next, please. Yeah. Now there is something very interesting. If you see it very carefully, then only you will come to know that this is a sculpture of Parshuram. He is carrying a Parshu. in one of his hands. He's carrying a dhanushya and he is also carrying a parachute. Very surprisingly, he's shown with four arms. We know normally Parshuram is always shown as an ascetic with a beard. And being an ascetic and a human being, because it is an incarnation in the form of human being, obviously he's shown with two arms. But here you can see Parshurama is shown with four arms. There are some more Dashavataras also, the other Dashavataras also. Next, please. Every Dashavatara is flanked with these Surasundaris. Now, Ramachandra with bow and arrow and with a sword, which normally is not seen with Rama, four-armed Rama, and very surprisingly, four-armed Buddha. Now, Buddha also here is a very young person, a charming youth, standing in Tribhanga. Now, what could be the reason behind it? If you see Dashavatara sculptures from Gupta period or post-Gupta period, these three avatars or four avatars, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, and even Kalki is shown with four arms, but these three avatars are always shown with two arms because they are human beings. Next, please. Is it to indicate their divine status, as Michelangelo did? Michelangelo, this is one of his earliest sculptures, Pieta, in which Mother Mary is the dead Christ is shown in the lap of Mother Mary. So, I'm extremely sorry. I should have silenced the phone. Here, people criticize Michelangelo for this sculpture, though it was one of the most elegant sculptures ever carved in the history of European art, because here Mother Mary looks younger than Christ. She's a young girl, and Michelangelo gave an explanation that she is a virgin. That is why I portrayed her as a young woman. Are the Indian sculptors too trying to say something? Are they trying to underline the divine status of those sculptures by showing them with four arms and as youthful characters? That though they are born on the earth, they are not earthen beings. They are not the earthly beings, they are the divine beings. To underline that fact, perhaps they portrayed him in this form. We do not know. Could be one of the possibilities. Next, please. Vamana. This Vamana straight away comes from Madhya Pradesh, from Gurjar Pratihar sculpture. You can see the influence of Gurjar Pratihar sculpture in some of these sculptures. Vamana is not commonly depicted independently in other sculptural traditions of India. You find a large number of Vamana images in Madhya Pradesh during Gurjar Pratihar times, and this Vamana is very similar to that image. And the other image is obviously Kalki. You can identify it riding a horse with a sword in his hand, and Kalki too is shown with four arms. Next, please. Now here, I was suggesting a possibility, an aesthetic possibility, that in Alankaras, we have Shabda Alankaras and we have Artha Alankaras. The Shabda Alankaras play with the words. So we can say that Shabda Alankaras are formal Alankaras. Like Anuprasa is a Shabda Alankara, alliteration, where a particular sound or a particular phoneme is repeated in a very fanciful way. Like Lalita Lavangalata Parishilana, here the repetition of L is an Anuprasa. And here the meaning doesn't play much of a role. And that is why these Alankaras are called Shabda Alankaras. But of course, if the artist, the poet is a gifted poet, is a genius, then he can also express the meaning through these sounds. That is a different topic altogether. But Shabda Alankaras are the Alankaras which play with the words and not with the meanings. Artha Alankaras are the embellishments which play with the meaning. Rupaka, metaphors, is an Artha Alankara. Simile is an Artha Alankara. Deepak, where juxtaposing two realities is an alankara, Virodha Bhasa. All these alankaras play with the meaning of the words, paradox. So by juxtaposing extremely opposite things, they create the fancifulness. So these are artha alankaras which play with the meaning, and there are some alankaras which are ubhaya alankaras like shlesh, the pun. In pun, the meaning and the word, both of them are equally important. They are called ubhaya alankaras. I am trying to add one more category, particularly while talking about sculpture, the rupa alankaras. The rupa alankaras, that the formal alankaras. You can see the rupa yamaka or rupa anuprasa in this sculpture. And in Apsaras, in Surasundaris, in Nagakanya, you can see the Rupakas, you can see the Deepakas, you can see the Virodhabhasa. Let's say, I know that some of you might find it a little far-fetched, but the notion of Alankara which prevailed in the realm of literature, I find it difficult to believe that the artist community, the sculptor community, was not at all aware of it and was not sensitive to it. So let's go further and see some of these sculptures. Here. Now see the way these ayudhas have been held. If you see Indian sculpture, these ayudhas are placed almost in a centripetal manner. But here you can see that all the ayudhas have been held in such a manner that they create a sense of repetition. Don't you think that this is a visual alliteration? This is a visual anuprasa. By repeating the rhythm of that object. In both these cases, see the placement of the ayudhas. I'm sure you never saw this anywhere else, and this certainly is not accidental. The artist has very thoughtfully placed them to give you a very fanciful experience. What is alankara? Alankara is poetic fancy. Alankara gives you a fanciful experience of the same thing. The meaning doesn't change, but the experience changes. So here, the artist is offering a fanciful experience to you by repeating those objects. And these are just two of the examples. If you go there, you'll find many more. Next, please. Now here, Deepak. In Deepak, there are two things which are radically different from each other in status, in reality. Like the popular example which I always give to my students is "Tum gagan ke chandrama ho, main dhara ki dhool hu." To enhance the beauty of one thing, there is something which is essentially opposite to it, is juxtaposed with the thing. Now here you can see the beautiful lady is carrying a katavanga, is being accompanied by a monkey. Now these are some very interesting things. The Naga Kanyas or the Karpura Manjaris or the Keshanistoya Karanis. Now Keshanistoya Karani, I'm sure the students of Indology know this sculpture, a very, very popularly known sculpture where the lady is drying her hair. And the lady is so beautiful. Now I don't understand that how it can be a criteria of beauty that the droplets coming out of her hair are as beautiful as the pearls and the hamsa, or sometimes the chakora. They mistaken it as for pearls and they try to eat them. Now here is the depiction of the same the central sculpture. You can see the bird, the lady drying her hair. In the third sculpture, you can see the bird, but the bird has a different role over there. That lady is a Nagakanya, the water nymph. No wonder that the water nymph is shown with the Naga, with the serpent, because the serpents too are the residents of water. She is also accompanied by 3 owls at the top. So the beauty and the fear, the femme fatale notion, the deadly beauty, the ferocious beauty. Now, I think this is a beautiful example of Deepak. So not only Shabdalankaras, not only Rupalankaras, not only formal Alankaras, but there are other Alankaras very intelligently, very cerebrally composed in this culture. Uh, so there is no Rasanubhuti. We know that Rasanubhuti is born out of sentiments, and those sentiments are experienced. Now, if you see Ellora's sculpture, if you see Elephanta's sculpture, if you see Badami's sculpture, you can see those emotions on the faces of those sculptures. You can see the other characters responding to those emotions. Is through their postures, through their facial expressions, all those things. They create an experience of rasa. All those emotions which clash with each other, with blend with each other, which relate with each other, they give you an experience of rasa. Here in this culture, the rasanubhuti is not there. None of these cultures try to give a rasanubhuti, but the rasa or a particular feeling is very intelligently carved out, very intelligently stated. Hmm? Like all the different rasas are not narrated, are not achieved through emotive aspect. They are intellectually. Now here, the first sculpture where you can see the same lady, Keshan Istoya Karini, drying her hair. You can see the bird also, but that lady is touching her breasts in such a way that it gives obviously gives you an experience of Shringara. But is it giving you an experience of Shringara, or is it is it giving you the indication of Shringara? This is the basic difference between Rasanubhuti and what term should we use? It is not an anubhuti of rasa. It is just an indication of rasa. Shringara is indicated over here. Not if you see the Postgupta sculpture, you can actually experience that Shringara. Here you don't do that. Here the Shringara is indicated. It is portrayed. Hmm? The Naga Kanyas, as I said, the femme fatale, the deadly beauty. Now there is one more story which is associated with these sculptures, the lady drying her hair, not necessarily accompanied by the bird. There is a story which is found in Rajashekhar's the story of Karpura Manjari. It says that in the royal court, an ascetic came, and that ascetic had a very special power of bringing in anybody whom you think of. Like if the king thinks of a particular person, if the king thinks of the queen, the ascetic could get the king there, get the queen over there physically. And when the king was asked to try this, the king was thinking about a lady called Karpura Manjari, the dancer, the court dancer, whom he really loved. Now he was thinking of Karpura Manjari. Karpura Manjari was having her bath. But the moment the king thought of Karpura Manjari was brought into the court bathing. And she's blushing because she too is in love with the king. Now, the story of Karpura Manjari is also portrayed in these sculptures. I think this one is the story of Karpura Manjari. Either she is known as Keshan Istoya Karini or Karpura Manjari in Gujarat. Now, the other sculpture, now I will not call it Deepak, or I will not call it paradox, because these sculptures are not close to each other. I have put them together, but they are not together. The other sculpture is of Chamunda, a beautiful example of Bibhatsa Rasa. Now, the depiction is very, very Bibhatsa, but it doesn't give you the feeling of repulsion. If you see the Kankala sculpture from cave number 21 of Ellora, if you see some of the deadliest of the Chamundas in Indian sculpture, particularly from Orissa, some other parts of the country, they're scary. They give you the experience of Bibhatsa. Now, this sculpture, the sculptor is trying to portray Bibhatsa Rasa, but that Bibhatsa element, that Bibhatsa experience is not imparted from this sculpture. It is very well designed, showing all the details of Bibhatsa Rasa, composed very intelligently, but not loaded with emotions, not loaded with sentiments. Next, please. One more sculpture, very interesting sculpture. This has been identified as Rishi Agastya. Now, there is a very interesting story regarding the birth of Agastya. Mitra and Varuna are the twin gods. And when they saw Urvashi, the most beautiful nymph from the heavens, they fell in love with each other, and both of them simultaneously embraced Urvashi. It is believed that the virya of these two gods was dropped into a ghatak, into a kumbha, and Agastya was born of that kumbha. And that is why one of the epithets of Agastya is Kumbha Yoni. Now, by showing kumbha over here, it is indicated that this is an image of Agastya. Now, such identifying elements are found in medieval sculpture. These are iconographical iconographical statements. Here, it is an indicator. It is a pointer. It is a signifier. So the kumbha becomes a signifier over there, and using signifiers again is a cerebral element. When a sculpture goes beyond this signification, it goes beyond this iconographical elements, then it enters into the realm of emotions. These sculptures don't go beyond that. They are very well carved. They are very well indicated. They are very well very well identified. But again, they lack the emotive undercurrent. Next, please. So, a very different kind of style, which perhaps influenced the Indian painting to a great extent. I think I thought I will speak for about 45 minutes, and then we can have question and answers. Now, here you can see that the picture on the left is a copper plate of a Paramara king, and on the right it is a Jain painting. In 11th century, the history of Jain painting and Jain art, particularly in the medieval period, goes back to 11th century, and the earliest manuscripts that are known to us are Nishita Churni and Oganiryukti. In those paintings, you will find that there is a protruding eye, like Cubist painting. These paintings, Jain paintings, have a protruding eye. The other eye, though the face is in profile, but the other eye is also seen. Now, this perhaps is an influence of Solanki sculpture. I'll show you. Of course, again, this too is not my observation. It was observed by Dr. Andhare, and I thought that it is a very interesting observation in the context of this sculpture. So I brought a couple of examples. Next, please. Here. Now you can see that the features of Jain painting are very similar to the features of. He was talking about the protruding eye, but I take this similarity a little further, and by juxtaposing them together, you will notice that the pointed chin, the rounded cheek, the pointed nose, and the protruding eye, all those things perhaps are straight away borrowed from Solanki sculpture. So this tradition continues in Gujarat. There are so many monuments. Perhaps this period is one of the most glorious period in Gujarat sculpture and architecture. Solankis have contributed immensely to the development of architecture and sculpture in Gujarat. The Jains also have extended this further, and it continues even after the decline of Brahmanical architecture, Hindu architecture. So one of the most ambitious, one of the most most ambitious, most beautiful monuments of this period, the period which has been extensively studied by Professor Dhaky. I thought introducing that to our audience would be quite logical. I hope I could give you some understanding of the architecture and sculpture of Rani Ki Vav. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
If anyone has questions, you could unmute yourselves and ask the questions one by one. Yes, Gohil sir, you could unmute yourself. Yeah.
जी नमस्ते सर, थैंक यू सो मच। आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आपने बहुत अच्छा मतलब ये सेशन लिया है। सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है कि नायिका, सूर सुंदरी और अप्सरा, ये तीनों में क्या अंतर होता है?
एक्चुअली इसके बारे में, जैसे उसमें और एक नाम मैं जोड़ दूंगा, आलस्य कन्या। तो आलस्य कन्या, नायिका तो अलग है, नायिका भेद तो हमें जो मॉर्टल्स है उसमें भी दिखाई देता है, मगर सुरसुंदरी, अप्सरा और आलस्य कन्या, ये जो है, मुझे लगता है कि ये सारी चीजें जो है वो एक दूसरे पे काफी ओवरलैपिंग है, काफी ब्लेंड है, एंड नोबडी हैज रियली ट्राइड टू गिव अ वेरी क्लियर डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन देम except Dr. Deglurkar. Dr. Deglurkar has written a book on Surasundaris in which he has tried to give a proper, but I myself am not quite convinced about it. I think उसमें काफी सारा overlapping है.
ओके अंडरस्टैंड सर, क्योंकि यही सर कंफ्यूजिंग रहता है, जो वो भेद रेखा है वो
कंफ्यूजन है, बिल्कुल है
जी। सत्य स्नाता एंड कर्पूर मंजरी बोथ आर सेम? कर्पूर मंजरी एंड सत्य स्नाता.
Sadyasnata, yes, Sadyasnata is either she is sometimes, you will find कि आप देखेंगे कि कई सारे लोग जो हैं वही स्कल्पचर, मतलब मंकोड़ी साहब इसको कर्पूर मंजरी कहेंगे, कोई उसको सद्यनाथा कहेगा, कोई उसको केशन स्तोयकारिणी कहेगा। अब ये केशन स्तोयकारिणी किस टेक्स्ट में है, इसका मुझे काफी हमेशा एक डाउट था, मगर है, this word, I thought that Dhaky Sahab has created this term, but he hasn't. It is there in one of the texts कि जो बाल सुखा रही है ऐसे। सत्यस्नाता which is just, तो कर्पूर मंजरी can be called सत्यस्नाता because she is सत्यस्नाता। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो है मिडिवल स्कल्पचर में, इसमें ये ओवरलैपिंग तो है बिल्कुल।
Okay, understand sir, yes.
I think someone has put the question in chat box.
I read that question but I forgot it.
Hello sir. Hello.
बोलिए।
Can I audible sir?
Yes, you are.
मुझे आपने बहुत ही सुंदर इंटरप्रिटेशन किया, खास करके अलंकार के बारे में। दिस इज फर्स्ट टाइम आई हर्ड फ्रॉम यू सर, थैंक यू फॉर दिस। And my question is now, please explain Sesh Sai and Jala Sai. Is it Sesh Sai and Jala Sai?
शेषशाही को अल्टरनेटिव अनंतशाही मिलेगा आपको।
But there is a difference between Jala Sai and Sesh Sai. तो you maybe explain.
जलाशाही की आइकनोग्राफी आपने क्या देखी है? शेष तो है ही,
नहीं मुझे जो पता है सर थोड़ा सा उसमें ऐसा है कि जलाशयी विष्णु इज आफ्टर पतन। और उनका जो है हेड पोजीशन इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम साइड। मे बी आई एम रॉन्ग बट if you are explain some.
I did not come across any specific iconographic description of Jalashai.
Hasta Mudra is different, sir. At Sesasai and Jalasai.
Is it? Please share it with me. I'll be very happy to involve it.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir. Some sculptures are there. I'm sir with you.
Jalashai sculpture आपने कहाँ पे देखा है?
Jalasai sculpture is also found in Wow.
तो उसमें शेष नहीं है?
Both are Vishnu's avatar, but Jalasai is a different, sir.
देखिए आपको अगर मिलता है तो जरूर दीजिए।
जरूर, धन्यवाद सर। बस यही एक मुझे
दिस विल बी इंटरेस्टिंग आप क्योंकि पानी के साथ शेषशाही ये तो है। But if it has a different iconography, it will be very interesting.
Our very good friend is Dilip is so many years research on Wow in Gujarat steps well, sir. May you know Dilip Parmar. He also helped me. Maybe.
तो आप उनसे पूछिए, बताइए मुझे।
जी जरूर सर, अब हम बात करेंगे जरूर। जी धन्यवाद सर, धन्यवाद।
Kannal sir, Nag, Kannal sir, Nag in Kashmir, you know, Nara Nag, Ved Nag has a different meaning. And
Nag has many meanings. Naga also means elephant. Nag is also a community. So if you go into those intricacies, there can be several interpretations. But here, we should have some specific reason to interpret it differently. Here, the Naga serpents are shown in the form of serpents. There is also a Naga dynasty in India.
Correct, sir. So this regarding Sheshashai, regarding the Vishnu's definition in our textbook and in research, is the Sheshashai means the Shadaripu's, the iconic meaning of Vishnu, who is a self-controlled, all-expanding force, who has in so much of self-control.
Some people, this is the iconographic indication. A sculpture has to be read on three levels. One is the pre-iconographic level, where you can see a man, multi-armed man sitting on, sleeping on the snake. This is what you gather. Then you enter into the iconography and identify it as Sheshashai. The further meanings are called the iconological meanings, and those interpretations are left to the individuals. You have all the freedom to interpret it differently. And if it is logical, it will be accepted by the tradition also. So one of my students has identified these sculptures as the subjugation of Naga. The subjugation of Naga community by the Aryan community. This is a political meaning which has been drawn from it. So meanings are countless. And if the logic permits, we are free to interpret these things. Your interpretation is also quite logical, and it is accepted. It is acceptable.
Thank you.
But then when you try to interpret it in various ways, you have to give a logical explanation of it. That is it. And
the simple explanation is when the sculpture is made or dictated by a designer like you at that time, 1000 or 2000, whatever years back, they decide that Saraswati is this according to the various shlokas and descriptions in the scriptures. That is why I asked.
Then when shlokas and descriptions come, that is iconography. That is a prescribed depiction. I go beyond that. even if the sculptor does not intend to show it in his sculpture, we have the freedom. We can take the liberty to interpret it our way. The sculpture can be interpreted in various ways, and the Rasika has the right to do that. And
Correct. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I go?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Really inspired by your talk. And just yesterday, I finished Elora and Enigma, and it's so wonderful that I got the opportunity to attend this talk. Uh, my question was about the relation between mention of some of these deities in scripture and their sculpted equivalents. Because I was recently with a friend who studies the Vedas, and he said, "Oh, if you've seen a few sculptures. Do you have a sculpture of Agni where it matches the Vedic description of Agni?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I don't know what the Vedic description is." He says, "Oh, seven hands, seven arms, three legs, four, horns representing four Vedas and so forth." I said, when you see it in Ashtadikpal context, I said, I've never seen an Agni like that, but apparently there is a sculpture in Pateshwar near Satara that shows this Vedic description or matches this Vedic description. I wonder if I mean, was it in the interest of the aesthetic that these Vedic descriptions weren't used when sculpting, say something? There's an Agni sculpture in this thing as well, Rani Ki Vav as well. Why do we not see more Vedic matching sculptures?
Because in Vedas, the descriptions are not found. The only description, very vague descriptions, like while talking about Indra, you can see the description that he is Haritas Mashru. His beard is green, and he has red eyes, and he has big mustaches. That's all. This is the only description that we find of a deity. Or sometimes in Atharva Veda, particularly in the extension of Atharva Veda, which is popularly known as Atharva Shirsha. The Atharva Shirsha is an extension of there are Anuvakas and Namavakas, in which there is like a Vakratundaya Dhimahi. Ekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi. This is the description that we come across. Ekadanta Vakratunda. That's all. I don't think that the Vedic descriptions are adequate enough to imagine an image and work it out. So the description which you are talking of is not the Vedic descriptions. I think he has mixed up so many things to describe Agni, and so
Sir,
it's not possible
classic
to
Agni
on Vedic sources to visualize an image and work it out.
A classic Agni sculpture is seen in the center of the Dudiya Talav of Pavagadh with ram as the Vahan, and that is why we could identify
That is the medieval depiction of Agni as one of the Dikpalas, that is Ashtadikpala. He is always shown with a ram and the flames coming out of his body. That is a standard depiction of Agni.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Because Vedic descriptions are not adequate to be used as iconographic description.
Understood.
Sir, you talked of Atharva Tirsha, but it talks of detailed description of Ganesha. Ekadantam, Chaturhastam, Pash Ankusha Dharinam, Radam Chavardam Hastai.
That is a later addition.
Okay.
Actually, most of the hymns that we recite today are interpolated in the later period, including the prarthana like Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva. They are from 5 different sources.
No, sir, I recited Atharva Tirsha. Ganpati Atharva
Tirsha is very heavily interpolated.
Okay.
Because
So we today interpret
in time,
Ganesh as head and
Falashruti
heart
becomes
in
very
harmony.
important. Hmm?
Today we teach children that head and heart in harmony to become Ganapati, leader of men. As you said, interpretation. Thank you.
Before we go ahead, let's quickly take this question from chat box, sir. So Devashi says, in one of the Facebook posts, I have read that sculpture identified as Kalki from Rani Ki Vav.
I read this. I'm sorry. I forgot that question. I read it. If it is Revant. Actually, since sometimes the iconography, there is, I don't know whether there are students from Gujarat in this crowd, but in Gujarat, you will find an image of Ramdev Peer with the same iconography, riding a horse, having a sword, and accompanied by a dog. So this iconography is here. The dog is not there in this sculpture, but Kalki iconography, Revanta iconography, Ramdev iconography are very similar to each other. Since this particular sculptural panel has a depiction of Dashavatara, I think it is more logical to identify it as Kalki, because he is in the company of other avatars. There is no reason to push in Revant in this sculptural program. Right? What do you think, Ajay?
Sir, in the Dashavatara, then why this Buddhist
Just a minute. The
culture
person who
is
asked
so
the question.
unique?
Wait. The person who asked the question, is he around?
Devashish, do we have you? Maybe he has connection issue.
Acha. But this is the only answer, that sometimes a sculpture needs to be identified in the context. You have to identify it by keeping in mind the context, because iconography sometimes can be quite misleading.
Yes. Do we have any more questions?
Oh, if I could go again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I found it really interesting that you referenced Immanuel Kant in your this thing, about the function, and so it's like the what do you call it? The utility of a certain form not being super obvious, right? And I mean, this reminded me of Aristotle's four causes, where the material, the effective, and so on, and the final cause. And in this case, I think the final cause not being super obvious or very apparent or in an object. A little bit of a tangent, but do you find more parallels like these from sort of classical Western thought or philosophy, that the whose analogies you find in Indian sculpture, especially Rani Ki Vav? If, do you see a more sort of formed analogy of, let's say, Aristotle's four causes, and do you think some of these could be mapped into the thought that we see in Indian sculpture?
I think Aristotle can be read better, discovered better in Indian theatre rather than sculpture, because I think he himself based his theories on theatrical experiences. So his theory is better applicable to theatre art than sculptural art. But still, if you be a little imaginative and be a little flexible, you can extend his thought to sculpture also. What is your discipline? What's your name?
Sorry, my name is Nilay Kulkarni, sir.
And what do you do?
I'm a computer scientist.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir, one of my last question, I request.
Mr. Gohil, can you just wait for a minute? There is another question in the chat box. So let's quickly take that first.
Yeah.
Ji.
I can't see it.
Okay, Amol, do you want to unmute yourself and read this question, or should I read? I'll read it.
Yeah.
If we see, would you like to tell your question, Amol? Would you like
Yeah,
to
okay.
answer
I
yourself?
actually, I wasn't sure if I would, spell it out properly, hence I wrote it down over there. My question is that if we see a cerebral approach towards the structural, and if we see it even in the sculptural design, is there an attempt towards an intuitive approach towards design, especially in the spatial design, where it moves away from the alankars and it talks more about the experiential factor, experiencing the various rasas in the spatial design? Is there any such attempt at that, or is it something that we can only analyze?
Ane, what I was trying to say is, if you see Gupta or post-Gupta architecture, there's a lot of experimentation in it. When I said cerebral, I meant to say that by this time, most of the problems have been sorted out. The solutions to those problems have been discovered, and the artist, instead of finding their own solutions, they follow the solutions which have been already discovered and have been already prescribed. So following the prescription is one of the factors which I was trying to focus on, trying to project. And the other thing, the emotions, the emotive aspect, where you can see, talking about emotions, depicting emotions, and imparting the emotions are different things. If you like, even a very cerebral expression can talk about emotions, but from a uh, uh, from an objective point of view. Here in this culture, the emotions are depicted very objectively, unlike the sculpture which we see in post-Gupta period, where the characters of the sculptures, the characters from that depiction are are smitten by those emotions. This is what I was trying to say. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
I think Nandita Dhara and Sanchita Mahanta also have raised their hands. They want to ask something. Nandita? We
Hello, sir.
can take
Hello.
two more questions
Hello.
maybe. Yeah. Yes,
हेलो,
Nandita,
थैंक यू
please.
सर, नाइस इंफॉर्मेशन। तो सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है, जो अप्सरा और अप्सरा जो है, खजुराहो जो अप्सरा शुरू सुंदरी जो है, उसमें तो डिफरेंट है क्या? शुरू सुंदरी, अप्सरा, आलस्य कन्या, कोणार्क टेम्पल में भी है, जो
हाँ
खजुराहो में भी है। मैंने खजुराहो
हाँ,
विजिट किया था।
यहाँ पे वही
तो
दिखाई देते हैं हमें. The iconography is very similar to Khajuraho. To this,
रानी का
I think
भाव में
this is a pan-Indian feature कि ऑलमोस्ट नॉर्थ इंडिया में सभी जगह वही आइकनोग्राफी हमें दिखाई देती है, जो कोणार्क में है, जो खजुराहो में है, जो गुजरात में है. वही that is what I call standardization. It is a period of standardization. सारे जगह एक ही रूल चल रहा है. आर्टिस्ट अपना रूल बनाने की कोशिश नहीं कर रहा है.
और जो रानी के भाव में जो शुरू सुंदरी है, उसमें उसके हाथ में जो है, मैंने खजुराहो में जो स्कल्पचर देखा है, उसके साथ कुछ डिफरेंट है, उसके साथ जो डिफरेंट है, तो सर उसमें क्या बोल सकते हैं हम?
उसका तो मैंने बहुत विचार नहीं किया, क्योंकि सुर सुंदरी पे मैंने उस तरह से काम नहीं किया उसके डिटेल्स में. मगर तुम कह रही हो तो ठीक से देखूंगा, अभी तुमने सवाल पूछा है तो. बाकी मुझे लगता है कि मैंने उसके बारे में ये नहीं किया है, विचार नहीं किया है.
थैंक यू सर.
There is another question in the chat box. When we read about Dhwani and Alankara theories, mostly it encounters with poetry or the metaphors. How can we understand Dhwani and Alankara in sculpture? For example, Meghdut, which is written by Kalidas.
आर यू स्टूडेंट ऑफ स्कल्पचर? मैं एक स्कल्पचर जिसके बारे में मैं पहले बोल चुका हूँ, उसका एग्जाम्पल मैं देता हूँ, क्योंकि अभी समय कम है और बहुत ज्यादा हम डेप्थ में जा नहीं पाएंगे. एलोरा में एक स्कल्पचर ऐसे है कि जिसमें शिव और पार्वती का विवाह हो रहा है. और तुम्हें पता है कि भारतीय विवाह पद्धति में जो ब्राइड है, जो ग्रूम है वो ब्राइड का हाथ उसका पानी ग्रहण करता है.
So, sorry to
वधू है.
interrupt. Shri Kavya says that she can't understand Hindi.
अच्छा, तो in Indian tradition, in the marriage rituals, there is a sculpture in Ellora showing the wedding of Shiva and Parvati. I will try to make it as simple as possible. In the Indian tradition, the bride offers her hand to the groom and the groom accepts it. It is called Pani Grahan. But Shiva, you know that Parvati, unlike the other brides, she literally won Shiva's hand. Shiva was not quite eager to marry her. It was Parvati who almost compelled him to marry her. She is a very bold, independent, upright lady, unlike the blushful Indian women. So here Shiva is nervous, and instead of accepting her hand, he is offering his hand to Parvati, and Parvati very confidently is accepting it. Now this is Dhwani. Now this shows the mental state of Shiva and Parvati both. It underlines the character of Parvati and it shows the nervousness of Shiva. The suggestion of emotions, Dhwani, Rasa Dhwani, is the suggestion of emotions, isn't it? So here the emotions are so beautifully portrayed. It's possible to show them in sculpture also. I'm sorry I'm using this example repeatedly, but perhaps one of the aptmost examples to explain this phenomenon.
Thank you so much, sir. The lecture is very informative, actually. So even I have another question, like, can we see this Dhwani and Alankara in sculpture, or as if we look at today AI, there are a number of AI images are being circulated, like which is not reality actually. They are recreating, and recreation is going on, right? So how can we look in those aspects as well as in the painting? For example, Raja Ravi Verma.
Now, which aspects?
Sir?
Which aspects are you talking of?
In the aspects of, for example, one, I was referring to the painting, for example, Raja Ravi Verma paintings, as well as the current scenario where artificial images or AI images are being widely circulated. For example, George Bush is dancing with some people.
Oh,
like
no,
is it? No,
that is
right?
art in flux. Well, we don't know what to do with it.
Okay.
Perhaps we will be able to talk about it a decade later.
All right, it's okay. Thank you so much.
I think we will have to stop somewhere, although the discussion is going really very interesting. And thank you so much, sir, for for this stimulating talk, I should say.
I only hope. I wonder whether when I was speaking, I was afraid that it is becoming very simplistic. Was it too commonplace? Was that because the information which I was giving, perhaps a large number of people from the audience knew about it.
No, sir, more than information, it was all about the insight, and it was all about the perspective that you have given us. I mean, many of us have seen Rani Ki Vav, but we never had this kind of a perspective, not just for Rani Ki Vav, but I think it has changed a lot of things for us when we look at many other monuments and many other, Indian architectural and art. And I'm not saying this just for the sake of it.
I can only hope that I could give them something. I could impart something to them.
No, really, really thankful to you. And I mean, this is the best tribute that we could have given to Dhaky Saab, Professor M.A. Dhaky, because this is what all his life he tried to do, tried to give the perspective on the art than just the information.
And he was interested in aesthetics also.
Yes.
He always talked of aesthetics.
Yes, and the way you have blended the aesthetics with the philosophy, with the literature, with the Alankara Shastra and everything, I think that's the kind of, this is the first time that we all are experiencing this kind of a thing, and I mean it. So I'm not saying just because you are the guest of honor today or you are the main speaker today and we have to say something good about it. I'm really honest.
I think people have liked it.
Yes.
Oh.
So thank you so much. And mean, there are not enough words to thank you for this. So thank you so much for accepting to be the speaker today and for such a wonderful, enlightening talk. And we hope we can have more of your sessions sometimes in future at Sambhasha platform on various topics.